Welcome to the Senior Techie Podcast. I want you to picture this because I know so many of us have been there.
Oh, absolutely.
You've had this long, fulfilling day. You lie down in bed, completely exhausted. You close your eyes, drift off, and then snap.
Right, your eyes just fly open.
Exactly. They fly open. You look over at the clock on the nightstand, and it is 3 a.m.
The dreaded 3 a.m. wake up.
It's the worst. You're just staring up at the ceiling. The house is completely quiet, and you are just lying there wondering why getting a simple, continuous night's sleep suddenly feels like, well, an impossible task.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating.
If you are listening to this right now and nodding your head, we are speaking directly to you today.
Right.
And you are far from alone in this.
Millions of older adults experience that exact same 3 a.m. wake-up call. But what often happens is this quiet resignation.
Like they just accept it.
Right. People assume that because they are getting older, terrible sleep is simply a mandatory part of the aging process. They write it off as just another unavoidable change.
Well, today's exploration on the Senior Techie is dedicated to completely dismantling that myth. Sleep does not have to permanently degrade simply because of the year on your birth certificate.
No, it really doesn't.
We are going to unpack the actual biological changes happening in your body because there is a very real physical mechanism driving that 3 a.m. wake up.
And once we understand that engine, we can actually fix it.
Right. We can explore simple, user-friendly habits and technologies to help you reclaim a full, restorative night's rest. But before we get into the details, especially the tech part of our discussion, I want to set a very clear tone here.
I think that's important, yeah.
Mastering sleep technology, or really any new tech, is virtually identical to learning to drive a new car.
I love that comparison.
Right. I mean, you already know how to drive. You've been doing it for decades.
Mhm.
When you get into a new model, the dashboard might look a little different. The radio dials might be, digital screens instead of physical knobs.
It takes a second to get your bearings.
Exactly. But the fundamental mechanics of steering, braking, accelerating, they remain exactly the same.
Yeah.
You are more than capable of taking the wheel here. The tech we'll discuss later is merely the dashboard.
Understanding that we're just looking at a new dashboard is crucial. But before we turn the key in the ignition to try out new gadgets, we have to look under the hood.
Right. The biology.
Yes, we need to move away from the sheer frustration of the wake-ups and look at the biological reality dictating them. The biggest piece of misinformation out there is the idea that seniors simply need less sleep.
Oh, you hear that all the time. People casually say, I'm 70, I only need 5 hours of sleep now.
But the data completely refutes that. The National Sleep Foundation states very clearly that adults 65 and older still need exactly 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night to function optimally.
Wait, really? So the requirement doesn't drop at all?
Not by a single minute. What actually shifts is the biology of how you acquire that sleep. As we age, our overall sleep architecture transforms. Well, older adults naturally tend to feel sleepier earlier in the evening and wake up earlier in the morning. And crucially, the body spends significantly more time in the lighter stages of sleep.
Meaning we wake up much more frequently throughout the night.
Exactly.
So when a neighbor's car door shuts down the street or the dog shifts its weight on the rug.
It pulls you entirely out of sleep.
Because you aren't anchored in that deep, heavy slumber like you were in your 30s.
Right. And this must be emphasized. This is pure biology. You haven't somehow forgotten how to sleep. Your body is operating under a newly modified set of rules.
Like producing less melatonin, right?
Yes. As we age, our bodies naturally decrease melatonin production. We also become much more physically sensitive to ambient noise, light, and minor fluctuations in room temperature.
And we can't forget medications.
Oh, absolutely. Medications for incredibly common conditions like blood pressure regulators or arthritis treatments, they can actively interfere with the brain's sleep cycles.
The stakes for fighting for those 7 to 8 hours are, well, they're remarkably high. Consistently getting less than 7 hours isn't just about feeling a bit groggy the next day.
No, it's much more serious than that.
It's directly linked to an increase in memory problems, a weakened immune system, and a significantly higher risk of physical falls during the day. As the research clearly puts it, sleep isn't a luxury. It's maintenance.
It is the single most critical biological maintenance we perform. And to understand how to manage this new phase of maintenance, we need to define two specific biological concepts.
Circadian rhythm and melatonin.
Exactly. Let's start with the circadian rhythm.
Let's break that down. I like to think of your circadian rhythm like the master conductor of a massive symphony orchestra inside your body.
That's a perfect way to visualize it.
Right. That conductor's job is to stand at the podium and tell your body's individual instruments when to play loud and fast, which translates to being awake, alert, digesting food, moving muscles.
And then telling them when to play very softly.
Exactly. Bringing the tempo way down so you can transition into sleep. When the conductor is on beat, the whole body plays in perfect harmony.
But as we progress in age, that conductor starts unilaterally shifting the performance schedule.
They change the show times.
Right. The conductor wants to start the lively daytime concert earlier in the afternoon and finish the nighttime rest period earlier in the morning.
Which is the precise reason you feel unexpectedly exhausted at 7 p.m. and find yourself wide awake at 4 a.m.
Precisely. That internal scheduling shift is the culprit.
So, how does melatonin fit into the conductor's routine?
Well, melatonin is a hormone. It acts as the chemical messenger that the conductor uses to actually tell the orchestra to quiet down and prepare for sleep.
I always picture melatonin as a natural dimmer switch located in the room.
A dimmer switch. I like that.
Yeah, you know those sliding light switches in a dining room? When evening comes, your brain slowly pulls that dimmer switch down. The internal physiological lights dim, signaling to your nervous system that nighttime has arrived.
And it's time to power down.
But as we age, it feels like that dimmer switch gets a little stiff on the track. It doesn't slide down as smoothly, or it doesn't turn the internal lights down all the way.
Leaving your brain confused.
Right, it thinks it's still twilight rather than the middle of the night. But wait, if my internal dimmer switch is stiffening up and permanently broken and my conductor is confused, aren't we just fighting a losing biological battle here?
I know.
Am I just doomed to tossing and turning?
It sounds incredibly daunting when we map out the biology like that. But the most reassuring takeaway from all the current sleep science is that these shifts are highly manageable.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
We might have less natural melatonin circulating and a shifted rhythm, but there are proven effective ways to externally support that conductor and manually grease that dimmer switch.
And that forms the basis of our maintenance plan.
Exactly.
So let's lay down the behavioral foundation first. Before we plug in a single device, we have to look at the free, everyday practical habits that manually get your internal rhythm back on track.
And a crucial piece of advice to keep in mind here. Pick just one of these steps to try this week.
Do not attempt to overhaul your entire daily routine by tomorrow morning.
Right. Taking on too much creates anxiety, and anxiety is the ultimate enemy of rest.
So what's step one?
The first, and arguably most powerful foundational habit, is maintaining a rigid, consistent schedule. Going to bed and waking up at the exact same time every single day, including weekends.
Including weekends.
Yes. By enforcing this strict schedule, you are actively retraining that orchestra conductor. You are providing an external clock to correct the internal one.
Keeping that wake-up time consistent also means monitoring what happens in the middle of the day, specifically naps.
Naps are a big one.
A quick nap is wonderful, but the timing dictates everything. A short power nap of 30 minutes or less before 2 p.m. provides a gentle refresh without doing any harm.
But taking a 90-minute snooze at 4 in the afternoon is essentially stealing sleep from your nighttime bank account.
You're just draining the tank early.
Exactly. You are actively reducing your sleep drive. Sleep drive is the biological pressure that builds up throughout the day, making you tired.
So if you relieve that pressure at 4 p.m.,
by the time 10 p.m. rolls around, your body simply hasn't built up enough exhaustion to maintain a deep sleep through the night.
Makes total sense. Another fascinating factor we can manually control is temperature. The sweet spot for a bedroom is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
The mechanism behind this is purely biological. In order for the brain to initiate the sleep sequence, our core body temperature actually needs to drop by a degree or two.
So if your bedroom is sitting at 75 degrees, your body has to work incredibly hard to cool itself down.
And that physical effort of thermoregulation actively keeps your nervous system awake. A cool room does the cooling work for you,
instantly signaling to the brain that it's time to shut down. Okay, so we have the cool room set up, but we also need to leverage the sun. Getting 2 hours of natural sunlight a day, even just a brisk morning walk, is recommended to regulate that cycle.
Sunlight is the strongest external signal our internal conductor can receive.
It really is.
When bright, natural, full-spectrum light hits the receptors in your eyes in the morning, it firmly communicates to the brain that the day has unequivocally started.
It forcefully anchors your rhythm.
Right, which prevents the conductor from drifting off schedule.
And while you are outside securing that sunlight, incorporating physical movement creates a massive compounding effect. There's a fascinating study from Northwestern University where researchers took older adults who were medically classified as poor sleepers.
I love this study.
It's amazing. They introduced a simple intervention, a 30-minute walk, just 4 times a week. That was the entirety of the intervention.
And the results were incredible.
It successfully shifted these individuals from the poor sleepers category into the good sleepers category.
The biological mechanism there is twofold. Yes, it physically tires out the muscles, but it also creates a subtle, temporary peak in your core body temperature.
Oh, and then it drops later.
Exactly. When that temperature subsequently drops later in the evening, that specific dropping action acts as a powerful trigger to the brain that the active day is over.
We have to address one final behavioral habit before we look at gadgets, and this brings us to a very pervasive piece of modern jargon, blue light.
Yes. Blue light.
The universal advice is to completely cut off screens an hour before bed. No smartphones, no tablets, no televisions.
Let's explain the physics of why this is so critical. Remember our melatonin dimmer switch?
Yes.
Blue light is a specific high-energy wavelength of visible light that is heavily emitted by modern digital screens.
Think of blue light like a miniature artificial midday sun beaming directly into your eyes from 2 feet away.
That is exactly what it is to your brain.
If you are catching up on the news on your tablet at 10 p.m., the receptors in your retina absorb that specific wavelength and misinterpret it. Your brain genuinely believes it is high noon.
So it immediately halts the production of melatonin.
It physically jams that dimmer switch so it cannot slide down, leaving you chemically wide awake. But, I know a lot of people think reading a novel on a glowing tablet feels exactly the same as reading a physical paper book with a bedside lamp.
It feels similar, but it's not.
Right. Why is that specific tablet glow so incredibly disruptive compared to just a standard light bulb?
The disruption comes from the origin and the spectrum of the light. A bedside lamp casts a warm, ambient, indirect light onto a physical page, which then gently reflects back to your eyes.
Just bouncing off the page.
Exactly. A tablet, however, is a backlit LED screen. It is actively projecting concentrated, high-energy visible light directly into your retinas.
That is a massive physiological difference.
It artificially mimics the exact frequency of a clear blue daytime sky.
Wow. Now, on the Senior Techie, we offer some excellent, easy-to-follow tutorials on how to adjust your specific device settings to reduce this blue light output. It's often labeled as night shift or eye comfort mode.
And activating those modes absolutely helps.
However, the true gold standard to protect your sleep architecture is to power them down completely an hour before bed. Pick up a paperback or a magazine instead.
Give your biological dimmer switch a fighting chance to operate naturally.
Right. Now, once these foundational habits are somewhat established, we can introduce targeted technology to act as a support system.
This is where the gadgets come in.
So we've talked about manually resetting clocks with sunlight, exercise, temperatures. But where does tech fit in? Does it just clutter the bedside table, or can it genuinely help enforce these habits?
It can definitely help if you choose the right ones. We know a vast majority of the sleep gadgets advertised on the internet are overpriced gimmicks.
But there is a very specific category of senior-friendly tools that are highly effective. Let's start with data trackers, like the Oura Ring Generation 3 or a standard fitness watch.
These wearables have become incredibly sophisticated at monitoring physiological signs while you sleep.
Think of a sleep tracker exactly like a car's dashboard diagnostic tool. When you take your car to the mechanic, they plug a computer under the steering wheel, and it generates a detailed report on how efficiently the engine ran.
That is precisely what a wearable device does for your body.
You don't have to actively interact with it, press buttons, or look at screens while you sleep. It quietly runs in the background, monitoring your heart rate, slight movements, and skin temperature.
And the next morning, you open your phone and review the diagnostic report.
Exactly, on how your internal engine performed overnight.
The true value of this data is that it highlights the disparity between your perceived sleep and your actual sleep.
Oh, that's a huge point.
You might wake up feeling like you only slept for 4 miserable hours, but the tracker reveals you actually slept for 6.5 hours. You were just waking up very briefly between sleep cycles.
Seeing that objective data often dramatically reduces the sheer anxiety people feel about their sleep quality. You mentioned earlier that our sleep architecture changes, leaving us highly sensitive to ambient noise. Is there a simple tech solution for that specific vulnerability?
Sound maskers are the ideal solution here,
Right.
specifically white noise machines. These are arguably the simplest, most user-friendly, and cost-effective pieces of technology to integrate.
There are no apps to download, no accounts to create, no monthly subscriptions.
You simply plug the device into a wall outlet and turn a volume dial.
To visualize how this works, think of white noise as a sonic blanket. It produces a steady, comforting, continuous hum, similar to the sound of a gentle fan or distant rainfall.
And what it functionally does is blanket the room in sound, absorbing and masking sharp noises.
If you're in a light stage of sleep, a dog barking next door or a floorboard creaking will instantly jolt your nervous system awake.
But the sonic blanket of white noise raises the baseline of background sound.
So your brain simply doesn't register that sudden acoustic spike.
It is a profoundly effective way to protect fragile sleep cycles. Another excellent category of technology is wake-up tech.
Like smart alarm clocks.
Yes, the Hatch Restore 2 is a standout device in this category.
Instead of a jarring, loud buzzer going off in pitch darkness, which instantly spikes your heart rate and floods your system with stress hormones, this specific clock physically simulates a gradual morning sunrise.
It's so much gentler.
It slowly fills your bedroom with warm light over a period of 20 or 30 minutes before your actual wake-up time.
It gently coaxing your brain out of its sleep cycle by utilizing your biology. It gradually suppresses melatonin, rather than shocking your nervous system into a state of alarm.
Finally, for individuals who severely struggle with temperature regulation, there is temperature tech.
Devices such as the ChillaPad Dock Pro.
Right. They're essentially advanced mattress pads that circulate temperature-controlled water to dictate the exact degree of your side of the bed.
They are a significant financial investment, definitely.
But if extreme overheating like chronic night sweats is the primary obstacle preventing continuous sleep, artificially forcing that core body temperature to drop might be worth the cost.
We also need to highlight a specific type of technology that belongs firmly on the do not use list.
Oh, yes. You must avoid any sleep applications that require you to actively stare at your smartphone or tablet while you are physically in bed.
Whether it's an app that requires you to read winding down stories on the screen or play a relaxing puzzle, it is completely counterproductive.
You are blasting your retinas with that midday sun blue light right when you need the utmost darkness. Staring at a screen to fall asleep is a biological contradiction.
It really is.
I know a lot of our listeners hear phrases like smart alarm clock or Generation 3 wearable ring, and a wave of tech intimidation washes over them.
Which is completely natural.
It's so natural to worry that setting up this new equipment will require calling a tech-savvy relative to decipher the manuals.
That apprehension is understandable. However, the consumer technology industry has finally recognized that accessibility is mandatory.
The white noise machines are completely analog, just a plug and a switch.
And the smart clocks and trackers are deliberately designed with step-by-step, plain English instructions that guide you through the initial setup.
If you take it one step at a time, mastering these tools is absolutely within your capabilities. It is exactly like adjusting to the digital dashboard in a new car. You already possess the driving skills. You just need 5 minutes to locate the new volume button.
Exactly.
Now, let's say we've diligently tried dropping the room temperature, we take our morning walks in the sun, we maintain a rigid schedule, and we even utilize a white noise machine. But the 3 a.m. wake-ups persist.
Right. What then?
When do we acknowledge that habits and technology aren't enough?
If you implement these changes and a few weeks pass with absolutely no improvement in your sleep architecture, you should not simply white-knuckle through the exhaustion.
Chronic sleep deprivation is not something you have to endure in silence.
At this juncture, it is time to consult medical professionals, because there is likely an underlying medical condition overriding your habits.
And the most prevalent condition driving these invisible sleep interruptions is sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea is incredibly common in older adults, and it remains vastly underdiagnosed. It is a physical condition where your airway partially or completely collapses, causing your breathing to repeatedly stop and start throughout the night.
Let's look at the mechanism of what is actually happening in the body during an apnea episode. When your breathing stops, the oxygen levels in your bloodstream plummet.
And your brain senses this drop.
It panics and shoots a massive spike of adrenaline into your system to wake you up just enough to force you to gasp for air and prevent suffocation.
And then you fall back asleep a few seconds later, having no memory of the event.
And 5 minutes later, the airway collapses and the entire cycle repeats. You're basically fighting a violent, invisible survival battle all night long, wondering why you wake up feeling like you ran a marathon.
A doctor can perform a sleep study to identify these specific medical blockages and provide treatments like CPAP machines.
A medical consultation is also the appropriate time to discuss supplements, right?
Absolutely. Many people attempt to self-medicate with over-the-counter melatonin pills. While a low-dose melatonin supplement might be perfectly safe for some, you must discuss it with your physician first.
Because it's an active hormone.
Exactly. And it can aggressively interact with other medications you are taking, particularly blood pressure prescriptions.
It is incredibly tempting, isn't it? You are lying awake at 3 a.m., improperly scrolling on your tablet, and an advertisement pops up for a miracle sleep gummy or a proprietary herbal blend that guarantees you will sleep like a baby.
The urge to just click buy and hope for relief is overwhelming.
But the marketing preys on desperation, and unregulated supplements pose a significant risk. Purchasing a mystery supplement off a random internet advertisement is exactly like buying an unlabeled jug of fluid out of the trunk of a stranger's car.
And pouring it directly into your engine without consulting your mechanic.
Right. You have absolutely no idea what chemical compounds are in that bottle, what the actual dosage is, or how it will react with your body's existing chemistry.
It could completely seize up your internal engine. Always consult your doctor before introducing new variables.
And if you are looking for safe, evidence-based information to bring to your doctor, the National Institutes of Health operates a specific branch called the National Institute on Aging.
Their official website provides solid, trustworthy, scientifically vetted guidance on senior sleep issues.
Conversely, if you encounter those aggressive miracle cure scams online, you possess the power to report them and protect others.
The official government website to report deceptive marketing fraud is reportfraud.ftc.gov.
You do not have to let these companies prey on your exhaustion.
Reclaiming your rest is ultimately an exercise in taking back control. It requires methodically adjusting your behavioral habits, thoughtfully deploying the right technological tools, and having the wisdom to recognize when professional medical intervention is required.
As we conclude today's discussion, I want to leave you with a final concept to consider. We talked extensively about how a simple fitness watch acts as a dashboard diagnostic, revealing that we might actually be achieving more or sometimes less deep sleep than our tired brains perceived.
Right.
If we can review that objective data over breakfast, how might possessing that concrete information change the way we approach our energy levels, our mood, and our patience during our waking hours?
It changes everything.
Suddenly, we aren't just blindly guessing about our physical health or unfairly blaming ourselves for feeling sluggish. We actually hold the diagnostic map. And when you possess the map, you finally have the power to consciously choose your destination.
Shifting from guessing to knowing is a deeply empowering transition. You have the necessary tools available, and you absolutely possess the capability to master them.
Thank you for taking this time out of your day to invest in your own well-being. This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to receive their free newsletters, you can subscribe at subscribe.theseniortechie.com